Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any
Except for
further
the penny. I want the penny back.
That's penny back.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Reed,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, expenditures stand approved as presented. Tonight we have no public hearings. Moving on to reports. Tonight we have our fire chief, Ryan Volz. He'll be presenting the department's second quarter report. Chief.
Wow, it's really nice up here.
You look good there too, Chief.
It's just everyone's like right in front of you. Busy year so far. We have 6 more calls than last year at this time. For the second quarter, we ran 171 total alarms in Fenton Township. We had 11 fires, 71 medicals, 6 hazardous conditions, 21 service calls, 51 good intent calls, and 11 false alarms. Of those 171, 17 of them were in Tyrone Township, which are calls to the second quarter, the exact same as last year. We had 9 medicals, 11 hazardous conditions, 2 service calls, and 5 good intent calls.
Thanks, Chief. Anybody have any questions for the chief?
Got a busy pie chart now. A little more detail.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot more detail.
Were you involved in that big to-do out in Linden on the lake?
No?
Oh, okay.
He's been clear to that.
Good. I'm glad.
No, I was not. So.
Chief, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. If you have more questions. All right, are there any other committee reports to be made to the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to communications. None. Next business order is adoption of ordinances. Tonight we have proposed municipal water system ordinance introduction and the first reading. I'm sure we've reviewed the memos in our packets. Operations Manager Broker, will you please explain?
Yes, this is one of the requirements for bringing in the municipal water system is to have a water system ordinance that complies with the Genesee County regulations. This ordinance is based on similar ordinances already in place in other Genesee County communities. Water and Waste did get back to me this morning and confirmed that the ordinance was good to go as is. This would be an introduction and a first reading, and then could be presented for a vote at the next meeting.
Thanks, Tom. All right, I'll now open up the meeting for public comment on the proposed municipal water system ordinance. Is there anybody here that is here? All right, Mike.
All right, so just one quick comment.
I was reading it over last night. If you look at connection required, which would be Article 6, talks about applications to subdivide land adjacent to existing water line into 4 or more lots. You may want to consider reducing that to 3. And the reason is that you may get a situation where someone needs to put in a road, because we allow 2 lots to be serviced by 1 driveway. So once you get to that 3rd, that's when infrastructure starts coming in. I don't know why 4 just may be the standard, but we may want to consider just reducing that to 3. Because there may be a situation where that would make sense. So
My suspicion is that's a historic vestigial residue from the Plat Act, what it was called the Plat Act, Land Division Ordinance, where you could get 4 splits less than 10 acres every 10 years. I'm guessing that's where that number came from.
just something to consider.
Well, I did talk to Mike today, and Tom and I do support that. So,
3.
3. Yes, I do. Is there anyone else that's in attendance tonight that would like to address the board on the proposed municipal water system ordinance? Moving on to those that have joined us via Zoom. Is there anyone that has joined us via Zoom that would like to address the board during public comment on the proposed municipal water system ordinance? All right, hearing none, I will now close public comment. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Did you look at this, Jack?
Yeah, and I had, in fact, I called John O'Brien, left him a message. I had 2 questions, which I haven't totally resolved. I tried to find some authority, but you can always require hookup to sanitary sewer because of safety, health issue. I don't know for sure that you can mandate that on water. And for a while, the county health department would not issue a well permit if you had municipal water available. They've changed that last I knew. And that, and then plus the fact that the table of our residential unit factors or whatever, REUs.
REUs. Residential equivalent units.
Yeah, that in here it's talking about the county list. The county changes that from time to time, and so when I left a message for John O'Brien, I suggested that be made by resolution, just like they have for the rates are by resolution, so you don't have to redo an ordinance. That's mine. But I'd never heard back from him yet, but I'm sure he'll call me before.
Well, this is just the first reading, so
Yeah.
we got some time.
Yeah.
I'd heard that book hadn't changed since the 60s, and that was part of the problem.
Oh, the REUs?
The RU book, yeah, that, it's Fred
It
Flintstone
may
era.
not,
Because there are uses now, there are businesses now that just simply didn't exist. There was no internet in the 60s. I know it's a shock to some of you, but.
So I think that's specifically related to sewer. I think water is just treated differently.
For whatever reason.
REUs, that also controls the water. Because you pay your tap in fee based upon REUs.
Yeah, I thought they didn't measure the water separately. I thought they just did it in terms of the RUs for the sewer and then just transfer the numbers over to water, but.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the table of unit factors applies to sewer and water both.
Yeah, right.
Right.
In fact, Tom put something in here about how it used to be measured and now it's different, or will be different.
Yeah, it's a different agenda item, but yeah.
Right.
John, are you okay with the recommendation?
Yeah, no,
From our zoning administrator?
Yeah, I don't have a feeling one way or the other on it, so I'm good with it.
All right. Any other board comment? All right. The second reading and vote on the adoption of the proposed ordinance will be conducted at our August 1st meeting. Moving on to unfinished business, none. Moving on to new business. Proposed public water supply operating agreement, Genesee County. The GCDC WWS, Operations Manager Broker will review.
So we have proposed public water supply operating agreement provided by the county. Most of the language is boilerplate. The one thing to notice in paragraph 1, it talks about which sections of Exhibit A we're applying to the contract. So we're not applying A or B. A talks about a specific procedure for how connection fees are paid and to whom. We do have a hybrid that's built into the tap fee policy that's added on to the end of the exhibit. And B is billing, which we will be doing locally, internally here. So C covers operation and maintenance of the system. D is operation and maintenance of the hydrants. And E is providing access to their cloud-based radio reads of the meters so we can do our billing. So that's what the C, D, and E are in item 1. Everything else is exactly the same agreement that everybody else in the county has. The Exhibit A, it talks about those are the 5 things. So in Exhibit A, it says if we don't select A in the contract, then we comply with the tap fee policy attached. What that policy says is for residential, they're going to be able to come here, take care of their connection fee, including the county fees, which we'll remit to the county on a periodic basis. Commercial will still have to go to the county because there's more calculations involved. The county said that's a bit of a deviation from their norm, but they're willing to do it with us. It makes for one-stop shopping, or at least for our residents when it comes to water connections. So I think that's a benefit. That's about all I have, unless there's questions.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Jack, have you read this real good?
Yeah, about,
Okay. There's just some sentences in there that when I read it, even the first and second time, I got the feeling that the township is being a cash cow for Genesee County. And maybe I misread them or
It's
put,
pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, it's same as all municipalities.
I mean, and, you know, like, everybody ends up paying for this stuff, right or wrong. I mean, that's, all the municipalities hooking up on this.
so it's
Someone
kind of
wants a diesel account.
boilerplate type stuff.
Pardon me?
A lot of it is boilerplate.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I need a motion to approve the public water supply operating agreement with Genesee County as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Patrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Krug votes yes, Goble,
No.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next on our new business, proposed revisions to the municipal water connection fees. Operations Manager Brooke, will you explain that?
Yes, if you recall, when we adopted the new fee schedule, we included the water connection fees, which were based on meter size. As we've learned more and discussed more with other communities and with the county, we now believe that using RUs as the basis for the connection fees is more equitable than meter size. So what we're proposing to do is, okay, so the proposed is, so the township capital charge portion of the connection fee for the first 5 RUs is $2,500 per RU. For multiple units, if they, starting with the 6th RU, it's $1,250 per RU. That's for direct connection. Now, if we have indirect connection, for instance, the Brookwood subdivision, they put in their own water lines. So they're gonna have individual meters, they're gonna go through the process, but because they're putting in their own water distribution lines, our fee is $2,000 instead of $2,500. So the county tap meter fee, also sometimes called an metered inspection fee, is currently for a meter of 1 inch or less is $39.50. If it's over a meter, it's actual cost, which is time and materials. Again, those are commercial, that's why they're going to the county, they'll charge that and they'll collect that. And then the county CCIF, the Capital Improvement Fund, or improvement fee, is $1,000 per REU, and that's, again, determined by the county for multiples. So what it boils down to for an individual, we're looking at $74.50 for a total connection fee for an individual residence. And that's pretty much in line with our sewer connection fees.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the revised municipal water connection fees as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Goble,
No.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
I vote yes. Patrick,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next on our new business, proposed amendments to the 2023 Fenton Township budget. Operations Manager Booker will review.
Okay, so quite a few proposed changes in the general fund. Rather than go through them individually, I think everyone's had a chance to look at them. In some cases, because of the 2 special assessment projects, those are a bit misleading because we pay it up front and we collect it over time. So the proposed amendment results in a projected overall budgeted deficit of about $490,000, but part of that's the $150,000 that we already had set aside for the Hogan Road Bridge, and 2 special assessment projects that total over $500,000 that'll be paid back over time. The projected unrestricted fund balance is still over $4 million, so we're still in really good shape. We had some unusual things last year that kind of puffed up the fund balance, and now we're spending some of it this year. So We're not proposing any amendments for any of the other funds at this time, and I do recommend adoption of the amendments as proposed.
Thanks, Tom. All right, any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to adopt amendments to the 2023 Fenton Township budget as presented.
Moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Kessler,
Yes.
Krug votes yes, Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next on our new business, the Genesee County Road Commission Local Road Agreement, Haddon Street Special Assessment District. We've all reviewed this memo in our packets, but Operations Manager, will you kind of just briefly review it?
Sure. At the last meeting, we created the Special Assessment District. The county's provided the agreement. They're in agreement with the discussion we had that to go ahead and pave that 211 feet of Grove Park between the intersection and the official beginning of Haddon Street. But even though it'll be bid as a separate job number, so it won't be part of the special assessment. And under the contract, we would split the cost with the county using our allocation funds for 2024 for that little stretch. The rest of it would go on the special assessment roll and be assessed to the property owners on Haddon Street. That's in a nutshell what we're looking at, and this step is required in order for them to start doing the design, bid it out ideally over the winter, and hopefully spring construction.
Thanks, Tom.
Have we heard from any of the naysayers that were,
I did get a letter from the one property owner who I believe some of the other neighbors were talking about, stating that she didn't understand and wanted to withdraw her support. It came after we approved the district and would not have changed the outcome as far as, it would have lowered the percentage, but still well over.
still well
50%,
over,
yeah.
okay.
So it's just the one.
Just one, that's all I received.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all right, I need a motion to approve the local road reconstruction agreement with the Genesee County Road Commission for Haddon Street and a portion of Grove Park Road as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
I vote yes, motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next on our new business, amendment to the City of Linden Water Franchise Agreement, DMK Development Group, LLC. Our zoning administrator, Mike Beam, is here to explain.
Yeah, so this is DMK, which is the skilled nursing facility in front of the airport, right on the Linden and Fenton Township border. One of the requirements that they had of their site plan approval and of the franchise agreement was that DMK was supposed to install a pathway as part of the LAF project in the road right-of-way of the city of Linden's. DMK agreed to that, and they were on their way of doing it when the grant informed us that if they did so, we'd have to remove that frontage from the grant itself and amend the whole application. So to address that, they have worked out an agreement with the communities involved in the city of Linden to, in lieu of putting in the pathway themselves, donate $60,000, which will be added as part of the construction of the LAF pathway. It will not interrupt the grant, and it really has a net zero effect to the township.
Thanks, Mike. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
So is it safe to assume that that $60,000 is what it would have cost them to put the path in?
More or less.
Yeah.
It's definitely, when you factor in the time and money to amend the application, it all comes out. Before we would enter negotiations with them, that was sort of the target goal, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
At our last planning commission meeting, we were discussing actually we were being given a presentation for a potential development to the east of this. And during that discussion, Mike pointed out that with the city of Linden joining the county water system, that it was likely that any new development to the east would be Fenton Township water supply. So my obvious follow-up question for that was, well, what about this facility? And I think Mike's belief, and I don't know if it's anything more than a belief at this point, is that at some point in the future, when all of that happens, that this facility will also come back onto the township and be built through the township. My question is, should we address that as we're amending this thing? Should we address that now? Are you pretty comfortable that that's going to happen without?
Oh, I'm not comfortable about anything.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with trying to get the laugh pathway going.
Okay, all right. So,
that specific question, John, I don't have an answer, and I don't know what,
well,
I don't have a
didn't-
recommendation.
I think it was your belief. I didn't suggest that you were stating it as a reality. Jack, do you have any idea what happens with that, or is that, yeah, okay.
No idea.
All right, well, I'll just,
Sorry.
so you've just been educated, and
Educated on it.
I'll
That's good.
withdraw my comments.
So all we're doing now is the 60,000 for the lap pathway?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's it.
Okay.
And we'll still get the pathway. Don't, yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I need a motion to approve the amendment to franchise agreement between Fenton Township, City of Linden, and DMK Development Group LLC as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Yes.
Cutrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Reed, and
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business schedule, this is to schedule a special meeting with the Planning Commission on short-term rentals, STRs. Zoning Administrator Mike, will you explain?
Sure. So as you guys are aware, right, we sent out the survey. We had about 1,100 responses sent back, just over 16% response rate on that. Planning Commission met last week to sort of create a plan of action. And essentially the outcome was they would like to hold a joint meeting with the Township Board. And the purpose for that is they don't want to start going in a direction, right? That's not consistent with your vision for how short-term rentals should or should not be regulated in the township. So rather than start going right and you guys want to go left, let's just meet the beginning, create sort of a framework, and then the Planning Commission will go off to create the ordinance based on the discussions that we have at this special meeting. So the request is to set up a special meeting to talk about short-term rentals with the Planning Commission.
Just so you know, I've been involved with this with Mike. The Planning Commission has done an amazing job. I mean, the methodology, what we've done as a township, sent out, what, 17,000, or?
No, it
Tom,
was
how-
6,700.
6,700 questionnaires. We've done everything we can on this, and I'm very proud of what the Planning Commission's done, what this board's agreed to do. And I think this is an important meeting. We're taking this very seriously as a township. I think it's a very important issue, so I think it's very important that we do have this meeting.
I've been sitting on these boards for almost 25 years now, and this has been the most, even beyond master plans. And we do a lot of outreach for master plans, but you know, we went after soliciting opinions for this. And kudos to Mike. Mike put together the survey, which is, you know, is a difficult thing to do. The response we got, you know, if you look at raw numbers, doesn't look all that great. But I studied a lot of math when I was in college, and a couple of classes were statistics. And this, you know, the statistical significance of what we got is unquestioned. It is well within the ranges. It's well beyond what you normally get when you push this kind of thing out, like factors of 3 to 5 beyond.
On the standard
So,
deviation.
yes, so it is, you know, the willingness to undertake that and go after it, and the response to it, we're all outstanding. I mean, it's just outstanding. Now we've got data. I wish I could tell you it solved our problem. It didn't. I won't characterize it now or attempt to characterize it. It's really, really quite interesting. And Mike alluded to 2 potential paths, and that wasn't by happenstance. That's, you know, the way the survey was set up. And I won't tell you it's 50-50 because it depends on, you can look at the numbers and make your own judgment, but it's essentially 50-50 saying we don't want them, or we want them but want them regulated. And when we asked about regulations, they wanted them heavily regulated. So one of those ordinances is very easy to write. We don't want it, that's an easy ordinance, okay? If we end up going down the other path of allowing it, but with heavy regulation, that's gonna take a lot more discussion. Saying no is, ask my wife, it's a lot quicker and shorter and easier. So, anyway, I'll shut up.
No, I just wanted to let the residents know the process was, we went way above and beyond. And we are in a unique situation. We are a riparian township. I mean, there's a lot of lakes, 17 lakes here. So it sets forth a lot of unique things. You know, you can, if we agree to STRs, do we allow them to also rent that pontoon, which puts a lot of people on the lake. So there's a lot of questions, but I think I think the process we've taken has been great, and I appreciate the Planning Commission. Mike has done an amazing job, so we just need to open up our phones and set a date. And also let the public know that this date that we're setting, if you're here tonight to talk about STRs or short-term rentals, this is not your evening, because not that you can't do it at public comment, but it would be best to address this board and the Planning Commission in a combined meeting when we set one.
When we're talking about just that issue?
When we're talking about just that issue, so.
Question or comment. I've been real concerned about this, more on the safety aspect, and due to moving and all this, I've run in and had the opportunity to talk to 3 or 4 different groups that live on the lake, and it was surprising to me how many are already doing it. And if you want to know, I can give you names, but I don't want to do it here in
No,
public.
they are doing it.
The short-term rental or the boats?
Both.
Well, they're like Verbo.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, here, give me
Airbnb.
whatever, because one individual told me, you can get a lot of money.
There's some interesting stories to be told. The planning commissioners, myself included, you know, I went away for a couple weeks on vacation to an area that's heavily involved in that. In fact, the short version, Torch Lake is 20 miles long.
Yeah,
There's 2 sides to Torch Lake, and you know, then the short side. 6 different townships, I think, on the border. There's at least 4 different ordinances governing short-term rentals that I know about, talking through the realtors, and I had Mike go chase them down, but they all handled it differently. So, you know, we're getting our hands on to see what the concepts are. Some are flat-out prohibitions, some are limits on numbers, you know, anyway, but the interesting part of the story is that the realtor that I was talking with says that the type of ordinance dealing with short-term rentals has a significant impact on the value of the home. And it's probably not the way you think. Probably not, but we'll see. Just a teaser for our little joint meeting.
So if everybody could take out their calendars.
way to go, Tucker.
I'm here to help, Bob. I'm here to help. Mark
See what we can
Stelback.
come up with.
You know, I'm just thinking, because this is a state lake, and I'm wondering if it has a difference between, if there would be a difference between private lake doing this and on state-owned lakes. I'm just asking.
No.
But that's what we're here to talk about. I mean,
Yeah,
this
well,
does have an access,
Right,
whereas Silver Lake does not.
correct. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yep, that's everything we'll be talking about. So,
Date?
do you have a date, Mike, you're proposing?
No, I mean,
It would be.
outside of John, I think most of the planning commission is retired. Just, so they are relatively available.
To my left,
Right.
it's not retired.
Not retired.
Do you wanna do it before the next board meeting?
That'd
Set
be nice if
aside
we could.
the Labor
We
Day,
wanna keep
because
it
that way
moving.
no?
I can't do any days next week, so.
No, our next board meeting. That'd be in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
August 1st. So if we said, you know, we got a 6:30 board meeting, if we said something at, 6:30, say 5 o'clock.
Of that day?
Is that
Yes.
gonna be longer?
Well, I think we could
To
get
get
a
a
start.
start.
Okay.
This is gonna be a process, so I'm not looking to,
That's fine with
you know,
me.
we just kinda get a feel for where everybody's at, lay the groundwork for what the survey results were, talk about some of the issues, and then just kinda gauge everybody's pulse to see what we wanna do. So I don't think, I think an hour and a half would probably be enough.
I agree with Treasurer Tucker. I was thinking an hour.
You need to figure out what you're gonna do at this meeting.
Right.
I mean, is it gonna be a township meeting, and the township, I mean, you're gonna have two separate entities that are autonomous. So, you don't, I mean, everybody can vote, like planning commission can vote one way, the board can vote another way. I mean, so understand you're putting these two autonomous bodies together, and you need some format for how you're gonna do this.
Well, there's not a law saying that we can't get together to discuss a topic.
Well, it's gonna
As
be
long
an
as
open.
we comply with the Open Meeting Act.
Well,
Yeah,
I think from a format standpoint, right, we'd spend the first 15 minutes reviewing the results of the survey. And then the planning commission has identified, I don't know, 15, 20 items. And it's sort of, take comments on those items, right? Just, for example, right, should it be especially, well, one, regulate, yes, no, big no. Then special use permit, should there be business license? Should we look at specific zoning districts? So we have like a checklist to go down, to sort of just reach a consensus for, all right, now that we have an idea, which,
But no decisions will be made.
no.
Well, I know, but when you're deliberating towards a decision, it's not just the fact you don't make a decision. Deliberations towards a decision, so you have to comply with the Open Meetings Act, but the question becomes is, what do you come back with? Is it a planning commission recommendation or a township board direction? And just because you're gonna have this meeting and people are asking questions and whatnot, are you gonna vote on anything? Are you gonna?
No.
So you're not gonna decide anything?
We're not gonna decide anything. We're trying to, what we wanna do is take the pulse of the board so that we know where to focus the effort at the planning commission.
Okay, and I'm playing devil's advocate.
You do that well. We're gonna get you a little set of hearts.
I have some, I keep.
Do you?
So the question then becomes is it the planning commission making a presentation to the board, here's our issues? Or is it the board telling the planning commission, this is what we
Neither.
wanna do? Or is it just like, what does the public have to say?
Would it make more sense if the planning commission had a public hearing, the township board had a separate public hearing, and then are able to bring the results?
We've got the results.
Okay.
We've worked our tails off on that.
I'm not
so,
saying you did.
Yeah, no, I don't think we need to do any of that. I think we just simply need to bring the board up to speed as to what the outcome was of the surveys, go through the checklists, and we just wanna get, the very basic question at the top of this, is this gonna be an ordinance that prohibits these? Or is it gonna be one that allows them with conditions?
Restrictions.
And here's a laundry list of conditions. So we just kinda get a take for where the board is at, so that the planning commission then can go back and draft whatever the appropriate ordinance is. And there's no guarantee that will pass when it comes back to the board, but we want direction. So it's planning commission sharing information with the board and seeking direction, with no decisions being made,
No, but,
and it will be fully compliant with the Open Meetings Act.
okay, but just, really, and again, devil's advocate, just then when you said seeking direction, that's a decision.
We're
And normal practice would be the planning commission would make some recommendation or draft some general guidelines for an order to send it to the township board. Then the board says, yeah, go ahead with that, or don't do that, or whatever. That's the normal practice. And what's being suggested is not unreasonable, but that reason has nothing to do with anything. I just don't want the board to get into some kind of a circumstance, because whose meeting is it gonna be? Is it gonna, so it's gonna be a joint meeting? Are you gonna have two different set of votes? Are you gonna have no votes?
No votes.
And so if you have no votes, then
Yeah.
what,
We're exchanging information
but here, so what's the purpose of the meeting then?
to get the
Exchange
information.
The planning commission already has all the information.
Yeah, but the board doesn't know it, and the board is gonna have to vote on whatever ordinance we pull forward.
That's not the system.
I think it's-
What?
We are,
Well,
correct.
I mean, fine, I would just suggest if the planning commission already knows, to let the planning commission say something to the township board.
It's very important to the community. I think
Of
it's good
course.
to get these two boards together to talk. We're not gonna be making any decisions. Instead of the planning commission setting forth something, then the board has 1,400,000 questions, and then we shoot it back to the planning commission, and we go back and back. It's a
That's
short
the-
meeting
well,
that we can,
okay.
be
I said
updated
what I
on the
need to
information.
say. I'm comfortable with what I said, so, yeah, whatever, I mean, it's fine.
Would we allow public comment at that meeting?
Oh, you have to.
have to, so.
Open meeting.
And you think an hour's gonna be good?
Well,
Because I
it
think-
depends on.
I think the public has a lot to say.
Yeah, well, they have.
I
Well,
know
but they've
that-
been through the
Yeah.
process. They've
Yeah.
been sent questionnaires, they've,
I'm not
you know,
sure all of them have.
like.
I mean, you're
what, we've had
assuming that
4
everybody
meetings,
responded
5
to that.
meetings?
I'll bet we'll get
Oh.
people in this
No, we
room that
know-
did not
we
respond
know
to that
the
survey.
assumption that-
Yeah, I golfed with one yesterday that wants to give me his results, so, he had some ideas.
Right.
But, you know, we're just, you know, information gathering at this point, he actually had some good ideas, but, you know, we're not, the basic thing is there's a fork in the road at the beginning of this process, okay? And we've gotta see which direction we're gonna turn first, and there's, nobody's gonna, you know, be married to that notion, but we just wanna see what everybody's thinking, so we can intelligently draft an ordinance that has possibility of being reviewed and approved by the board.
I agree with all of that.
I guess I also would be worried though that we won't have enough time for public comment.
Yeah.
If we only have.
Well, we're
an
gonna
hour.
take it at the end, I'll tell you that.
Well, right, I guess I'm just wondering if, are we gonna, you know, have public comment, then cut off public comment at 6:30 when we start the township meeting?
So you might be right, Kate. I think maybe we should just do it on another night where we set aside a little.
And it can go
more
as long as
time.
it needs.
Well, and I would hope if we do it on another night, we don't do it at 5 o'clock, cause a lot of people still work. Let's do it at 6
6 o'clock.
to give them the opportunity to attend.
I smell pizza.
Still waiting on that Luigi's.
Oh, if we do it on a Tuesday, we'll.
You're the
turn
guy
in
who's supposed to
chocolate.
bring it.
I know. I may have to this.
No, I wanna make sure, regardless of which way we go, yay or nay, that the individuals within the township have the right to sway us one way or the other.
What is clear is that this is an important issue to our residents,
Definitely.
and it is very divisive. There are strong opinions on both sides of this coin, and you're gonna hear from all of them. And I don't care, I mean, I'll sit here as long as late as people wanna give us input, cause that's what we want. You know, we essentially, that's my view, I wanna know what our residents are on. That's
Right.
why we sent the questionnaire out, and I can tell you at the end of the day, the only thing that was clearly agreed on by the residents is that renting motorized watercraft in connection with short-term rental is not okay. That was 80-20, that's a dumb idea, and I think it's pretty obvious to see why it's a dumb idea. After that, things get a little more interesting. So, you know, we just did a lot of listening. It's the rare circumstance, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. We didn't have an outcome in mind. You know, a lot of times when you start these, there's something you're trying to address and a goal you're trying to get to or whatever. Not at all that way with this. And, you know, I was hoping that the survey results would make it easier for us. They don't, but that's okay. But yes, we're gonna have lots of public comment. I'll, you know, I don't have any problem with scheduling it on its own night, because it deserves that. Just
I think it's
record-
very important that we do that.
It's a
That's what I
hot topic.
Do we sense it is important and it is gonna set aside a couple of hours? Should we then, have Tom Spear up, sending out an email to everyone and trying to find a date, or do we want to all, because the planning commission isn't here, so, and though they are all retired, they still, July and August is vacation week.
Sure.
So would it be better for us to kind of just put this off, let Tom spearhead something with like 5 dates, 5 times, and say, and see if we can come to a consensus, because
Well, if, as John says, if you're trying to do it sooner than later, if the board can agree on a couple of dates now, at least we have a narrower starting point with the planning commission. We might be able to get this scheduled within a day. I mean, not have it within a day, but have it
Wanna
set
do that?
within a day.
let's take a look at our,
Why do we have to have it before the next meeting? I'm just
We
curious.
don't.
We
We
don't.
don't. It just, right now, we have 0 regulation in place.
I know, but
Some
by the
people.
time this goes through, it's probably gonna be September, October anyway.
Could be, could be.
So the season's for rental is probably gonna be
What
over.
days
I'm
can
just
you
saying,
do?
I don't wanna
This is
keyhole,
important to full
you know,
boards.
pigeonhole
Yeah,
a
I
bunch
just
of us
can't do it
into
any
it.
day next
Like I
week.
said, she can't do a
Okay,
week.
no.
No, I'm not gonna,
I don't care, I'm retired too, kind of.
Really?
so,
Tell
how do we
all
want to
the places
proceed?
you were today.
Do we want to try to at least pick
I
a
don't
date?
care. I'm just saying,
Well,
I don't
all right.
see.
Uh,
So why don't everybody
Christine
look at their
could
calendars?
Next week.
Tuesday seems to be a day that nobody's golfing, or at least,
Not true.
Tuesday?
No, that is true, yeah, that's true,
Yeah, I was
that's
gonna
true.
say.
That's
We
true.
worked on-
Monday,
changed
Monday
the
is the
boards.
problem, Monday's the problem, yeah.
Right.
August 1st, what does August 1st look like?
That's our board
meeting.
meeting.
So let's go to the next
Oh,
one.
duh.
Go to the 7th?
It's 8.
8.
8th?
Oh, that's right.
We have a, oh no, that's building zoning meeting. I have a building zoning meeting. I'm free on the 8th. That's perfect for me.
I'll be in Alaska.
I'm never free, but I'm available.
Yeah. You're what?
I'll be working at Hurl.
Okay, so that doesn't work.
How long are you going to be in Alaska?
7 days.
Huh?
From,
7 days,
when you going?
Start-
from the 3rd to the 10th.
3rd to the 10th.
So what about August? No, that's a board meeting, so we go into August 22nd. No, that's zoning board of appeals. Well, they can go up, meet upstairs, we can meet down here. August 22nd.
Except you've got the
Sounds
planning
good.
commissioners on the ZBA.
That's right. Okay, I'll put mine down.
Is golf still going on at the end of August on Mondays?
Yeah, until September.
How about a Thursday?
I can make a Thursday work. So go back up.
You're back on the 10th, Rob, or you
Yep.
just, could you make a meeting on the 10th? Oh, we have,
I think so, yeah. I think I fly out in the morning.
Is that planning commission night?
yeah, but that's with the planning commission, so what? Yeah. Why don't we do that? That makes it easier, because the planning commission has already planned on being there.
We do the 10th.
Everybody do the 10th?
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Time?
Oh, I gotta be at the Fenton Farmers Market.
I'll bring you some
I can-
corn.
All right, I can make that.
We'll
Yeah,
get
the
you
planning
some
commission's
for
meeting
Micro
anyway.
Works.
Is that?
So, Mike, question, can you just make that a 0 agenda night? I mean, nothing on the agenda?
So we might have to do one quick site plan,
Well, but you could be done by 6:30. If you limit it to one thing, so we could meet at 6:30, which would be friendly to the residents, and that would be perfect.
As long as it takes.
All right, that's our date. Thursday, August 10th at 6:30 PM. You're gonna limit the planning commission meeting to one agenda item. All right? Mike, can you send out, because we don't have to invite the planning commission because they're gonna be here. So if you'd still send out, all right? Since this is important, I do want to make a motion to schedule a joint meeting with the planning commission on August 10th at 6:30 PM to discuss short-term rentals. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, maybe could we just add to that and to hear from, maybe just partially just have a purpose of the meeting that isn't as offensive to our
Well,
township
right,
attorney.
if you're gonna have a special meeting,
Could we
you
say
ought
the
to have
purpose is
what
to
that
solicit
agenda
comment
item is.
from the community about a potential short-term rental ordinance?
Absolutely, we can propose.
Well, the purpose isn't, I mean, public comment is part of any public meeting. The purpose of the meeting is for the planning commission and the board to discuss it. As far as as far as the purpose of the meeting. If if you wanna include that in the motion.
Right.
Something should be included, yeah.
Kate, do you wanna include language for the motion?
Well, I guess, I mean, not if there's disagreement about it, I guess what I would say that I think the sort of shaky part is if we are coming to, any sort of decision or direction between the two boards, that's
We're not.
okay, I know, which is why I prefer the focus of it to be, hearing, I mean, from us and the hearing from the community.
input.
But you
Yeah,
need some sort of an
still
agenda.
getting input. So, I don't know.
Tom, can you stroke some language here?
Yeah, we'll
Just-
figure it out.
Let's get this, yeah, we'll put together some language.
Well, with all due respect, if it's part of your motion, it should be part of your motion. You don't have a motion to have this meeting and then decide what it's about later.
I'll make a motion.
And I mean, Tom knows what it's gonna be,
Yeah,
but
I think so. I think you made a motion. I think I seconded it.
Yeah, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Well, I think we should listen to what we're paying our attorney for,
I did.
okay? In all due respect, he's our township attorney.
I don't care.
Okay.
There's the right and the left.
Lawyers don't always agree. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Town hall meeting where everybody's there.
What's that?
Do like a town hall meeting,
Yeah.
so that way it's
Can we call it
the
that?
board members there and the public there making comments.
That's what an open,
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, because at a town hall meeting, no decisions are made, and I think that's what's going back and forth, if people are worried making decisions.
No
We're not
decisions.
doing that, that's clear, if you do it as a town hall meeting, the public is there and you all are there.
there's, well, again, there's no legal thing for a town hall meeting for a charter township.
We'll have a workshop instead. No decisions will be held.
You call a workshop.
Call a
You have some kind of agenda. you
Okay,
just-
can you, Kate, can you set forth a motion just to have a workshop
Sure.
that would include?
Wait a minute, we got a motion and a second.
You have to
Oh,
remove your
all right.
motion.
I will remove,
Hold on a minute, Tom's saying something.
Go ahead, Tom.
Our attorney has pointed out that workshops don't exist. It's a special meeting or it's a regular meeting. And so it's a special meeting a joint special meeting of the Planning Commission and the Township Board to review and discuss provisions for potential zoning ordinance amendment for short-term rentals.
There you go.
You okay with that?
Okay,
wow.
got some questions.
This is way
Should
too
we-
complicated
yeah,
to
it's
set
way
up a
too
stupid meeting.
complicated.
This is silly. All we're doing is setting up a meeting to exchange information. Well,
Right.
I don't know, I'm not sure what all this is about, but this is silly.
All right, Tom, you can put that language in the motion, correct?
Yep.
All right, somebody wanna,
Well, we got a motion and a second. I'm ready to vote.
motion second, all right. Motion's been moved and seconded. Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
I'm almost afraid to. Kessler.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Cottrell.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Motion passes. We have a meeting August 10th at 6:30.
Thank you, Bob, I appreciate it.
Where no decisions will be made.
The next business order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has additional comments or concerns? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. We'll now open the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. Is there,
Ooh, pick me, pick me.
First, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? If so, Julia, will you approach the podium? Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I'll try.
Just kidding.
I have concerns about the short-term rentals as I'm the assessor, you brought it up earlier, with valuations. Also, and this is just a statement that I want to make to the board, I don't expect any answers. When you're looking at this, I would like you to also take into consideration the assessing portion of it, as well as the principal residence exemptions, that people are using short-term rentals, and they're also claiming principal residence exemptions, and we're looking at getting clarification from that from the state and making new boundaries on that as well. So just kind of keep that in mind in the back of your head when you're looking at those things, because right now they're all over, and we don't have any way to track them, and I think the most important thing is going to be some type of registry.
License, yes. Julia, your expertise. Really appreciate it if you could make that meeting.
I will be there.
Put it on your agenda.
I will.
All right. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to address the board?
Her
Do you
name
mind
is
coming?
Amy.
Amy, would you like to come up and?
So my comment also is on short-term rentals. And just a few things that I would like you to consider prior to, you know, this discussion, workshop, whatever we want to call it. First of all, I think it makes more sense for the planning commission and the board to listen to the public comment, get the feel of the community, the folks that show up to that, and then maybe have a meeting amongst themselves to kind of make a decision based on what you found. I know you mentioned that the results were very clear in the survey, and I do not agree. I think that, first of all, the results were very close. Secondly, the survey was a joke. I mean, I think Mike created it and he did a great job, but it was very baiting as far as the language was concerned. Any kind of multiple choice question, if the first answer is no or yeah, I mean, so many people just went to that first or second answer even before they got to the third or fourth, and almost all of the questions, all 4 options were negative. So I see, what I'm viewing is that this board only wants 2 options, absolutely none or very highly regulated, so that you have absolutely none. I feel like you're not giving the people that want them or that are running them now the option to even have anything positive out of it. It's just looking like you're very, very negative about the whole thing, and I don't think that that sets a really nice precedence for us being, you know, able to vote and make those decisions. The other subject that I want to touch on is the boats. So what difference does it make if Skipper Buds rents a boat to somebody who has a credit card and a driver's license, or I rent my boat to somebody who has clearly went through a major clarity through Airbnb or VRBO. I have over $1 million liability policy that's required by those companies. I mean, I just don't see how you can make a decision on, I can't rent my boat, but Skipper Buds can rent any of theirs with a credit card and a driver's license, right? So that's the other thing that I think really you just have to think about. And that's it.
Well, Amy, just from myself, I haven't even went through the results because I wanted to keep an open mind, because I knew the next process was being to listen to public comment. I know the Planning Commission has done a great job. So I can tell you, I won't speak for the rest of this board, but I don't think there's anybody on the Planning Commission or the board that is a preconceived, this is the way we designed that to get negative, to restrict anybody, because I've been a riparian on this lake for 4 decades.
Yeah.
I didn't even fill it out.
Well, that was wrong. Your vote should have counted.
I will have my vote. I will get my vote.
Well, good. Then if
But
we're
the
not
point
going to
is
take the
that
survey
I really wanted
results.
to hear from the public, but I won't speak for anybody else, and they can speak for themselves.
Yeah.
But there are no preconceived, no predetermined, nothing. This is probably one of the fairest processes since I've been on this board for 15 years.
Then, Mr. Lorraine, I would really love to see the public have their ability to share their thoughts with the Planning Commission and the board prior to those 2 entities getting together and deciding on some type of ordinance to then vote on. I mean, I feel like we're doing it backwards. Even you said, Mr. Tucker, like, we'll take public comment at the end of the meeting. Like, we'll listen to them last. That's not the way this should go. I feel like you should listen to them first, and then y'all get together and decide, okay, we've got some really strong opinions about this and this and this, and now maybe let's come up with a plan that now we can vote on as a group.
But we're not really
opinion.
doing that night. We're not going to be voting on anything. That's really what we're going to
No,
be doing.
I realize
is
that.
Listening to the Planning Commission, being brought up to date from Mike what the results were from the survey, and then the board being brought up to date, and then we will listen to the public.
Yeah.
That's really what this meeting is. And to me, Amy, I think it's a perfect opportunity to have both boards in a single place to listen to the public what are we gonna do, have 2 public meetings?
No, no,
So the
no, no,
board can
I
have a-
agree.
So I say,
Absolutely.
let us put this meeting together, which we've already done.
mhm.
And if you belong to the LF, Lake Fenton Property Owners Association, or any of the lakes, invite the people.
Yeah.
Look, we can fit 200 people in here.
Awesome, good.
So, you
Have
know,
lots of chairs.
you do your job, we've set the meeting, it's
Perfect.
public. It'll probably be in the Tri-County time, so I guess that's what we can do.
I do think we should all keep in mind that surveys have response bias, so you only have certain people responding, they can't measure intensity of response from different people. So I mean, I do appreciate, you know, we only have so many ways to get information, I'm glad we have a detailed survey. But I also think that we should just all keep in mind that it's not like, you know, if there's a narrow majority favoring one thing versus another, we have to go that way. It's ultimately the board's decision and planning commission's decision.
But every SRS is that way.
Right.
Whether we
Yeah,
put it
that's
up
all
on the
I'm-
internet,
That's all I'm
whether
saying,
we
we
send it,
talked about
there's,
the statistical significance of the survey, and given the response bias in surveys like this, it's obviously not statistically significant. Because it's not a randomized.
Oh, wait a second. I will calculate
Yeah.
the
We'll have discussions about the math
standard
on
deviation
that.
for the next meeting.
Well, I
It's
mean,
plus or
the
minus
standard
3%.
deviation isn't how it works when you have a response by, I'm an econ major, Bachelor of Science. I mean, the way you conduct a survey, if you want it to be statistically significant, it would have to be you want randomization, you don't want response bias. I just don't think we can say, like, from the survey, we know what the overall disposition of the township is when you have 1,000 people responding, you know, depending on whether they cared about it or not, and whether they received it, whether they happened to be home at the time, whether they got their mail. You know, there's a response bias, so that's not how statistical significance works. It's just what I would say.
Wow, so the diary methodology from Arbitron that worked for 52 years is insignificant when they send
I'm
out
not-
diaries to
I'm
simply
not saying
random
it's
sample? I mean,
I'm not saying it's insignificant, I'm saying it's not statistically significant. They're completely different things. I'm not saying the survey shouldn't have been done. I'm saying that you shouldn't pretend that, like, we know the township, like, we know that we have a majority who favor banning over a majority who favor regulation.
If you think I said that,
Well, I think that's what
not what I
saying
said.
it's significant is what you're trying to say.
No, I think that I disagree with you on whether you can rely on the data, and I've had a lot of math, so I know the math side of the equations, and I don't disagree with your point about response bias. That's a real thing in any kind of survey. Not the issue, not the question. Amy seems to think that I said that the results were clear. The only thing that I said the results were clear on is whether you can rent motorized watercraft in connection with the short-term rental. That was the only thing that's clear out of this survey. So whether it's statistically significant or not, the data is representative of the diverse opinions that I talked about. You got an example of some of that already tonight.
Sure,
So,
yeah, I will agree with
yeah.
that. I agree that
we've
opinions
got, how
from
many
most
pages,
people.
Mike? How many pages of comment do we have? What it shrink down to? 22 pages, 44 pages? How many?
38.
Yeah. So we got lots of comment beyond
Right.
answers to questions in a survey. The themes are all there. You're not going to have a hard time figuring out what the issues are, and it's going to be divided. Just
And
way it
that's the
is.
value of it, getting a bunch of opinions, not claiming that it's a statistically significant representation of what people need.
I didn't mean to suggest that the conducting of the survey answered the question for us, because we wouldn't be having a meeting if that was the case.
so let me ask you just one question, so the residents understand. So you're saying that the people that will show up at the next meeting are going to be statistically more relevant
No.
than the 1,200 that's in
No,
it?
I think there's a response bias to people who show up at a meeting. I think there's a response bias to a survey that's sent out. And I think that ultimately the
So what do we do?
The planning
What's
commission,
the right?
ultimately the planning commission and the
What's the right
township
way?
board have to make a decision. I'm not saying you shouldn't send out a survey.
What's the right way, Kate? What should we be
The
doing?
right way
from
is
you?
just to not pretend that there's exaggerated significance to that is disproportionate to what really exists.
Okay. I don't think anybody's pretending anything.
Well, I think that's exactly what happened.
I think you misunderstand what I say when I talk about statistical significance. I'm sorry?
No, I'm not saying to throw out the servers.
We'll listen just to you.
Why would we throw out a survey of 1,200 people? Okay. Chief?
One of my questions would be, are these gonna be treated like businesses? We don't know that yet. And are there gonna be a license involved?
Don't know any of that.
Which would involve me with the new 2021 International Fire Code. So there's gonna be a whole list of things to be compliant on top of everything you guys decide, if we're gonna be giving them a business license.
None of that's been decided.
Okay,
We're way higher elevation than that.
Okay.
We haven't got down to that level.
well, I'll be at the meeting regardless, just to hear what the input is, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly been discussion about having inspections regularly, and that's in the bullet list, but you know, whether that's included in what we end up with, I don't have any idea. I don't know how anybody else would.
I'll just start digging on a couple different theories of ways that it could go, just from past experiences in neighboring communities and Traverse City and all that. So I can look at a couple different options through our fire code. So it's on hand, so you guys have that as well. Because that could make or change a lot of decisions as well, the way they function, so.
It'd be great to have that information.
Okay.
Absolutely, Chief. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Do you mind coming up to the podium, please? Sorry about that.
Just a comment, and it's just a personal comment. My name is Charmaine Thorley on Windsor Beach.
Okay, thank you.
I have talked to several neighbors who never got this petition, didn't know anything about this issue. And we're a small street. So I think, and in fact, thinking back, I got the notice from another neighbor up the street who was concerned about a house next to her going to a B&B. She has small grandchildren around. And she happened to get the information, and she brought me the petition. But, you know, to say that everybody's got it and everybody, I don't know. You know, a lot of people might have been out of town. A lot of people just, you know, they see more mail coming in and they're not sure what it is. You know, they really don't know the impact of this. And if they're acquainted with it, they might have a strong opinion one way or another. I'm just saying we have at least, 900 homes around the lake, 900. And I'm assuming that.
Just one lake.
Yeah, just one lake. And then there's homes that are not on the lake. So if people that are not on the lake and they don't anticipate anybody really much being an Airbnb, but maybe the guy down with his cornfield down there might want, it's not going to impact them, then they're going to say, oh yeah, it's okay, it's an okay idea. But they're not like me that's crowded in, you know, we're on 40, 50-foot lots, and people coming and going at all, you know, all kinds of different people that we don't know. This is more of a problem, and I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Well, I appreciate the comments, but because Mike and I have had at least 50 conversations about this, we are very unique. We're a riparian, we have a lot of lakes, we also have rural areas, so it would be very easy, like the city of Fenton. I think it would be very easy if this board was sitting on the city council when you got a city. You know, it would be a lot easier to regulate, but when you have all these lakes, the safety issues, all kinds of things, it's tough. But all I would say is for a board in the planning commission, I think we've went above and beyond.
Oh,
and
I
think
appreciate the
that
effort.
we're a long ways from making any decision.
Yeah.
And I know that, Mike, haven't you been taking public comment at almost every meeting?
Yeah, you've got 6 months worth of.
Yeah, we've had 6 months worth of public comment
Well,
already.
I've been at a couple of the planning meetings, and I filled out that form, and it was a lengthy form. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of people who might really have a strong opinion, but somehow they missed this. And people living on the lake are going to be affected most, because people want an Airbnb on a lake. How cool is that, you know? And, you know, it might be a family with their kids will go to the lake, well, let's rent this Airbnb. And in fact, I stayed at an Airbnb in Edinburgh, Scotland, and that was nice. But it was an area that was a business area with a lot of hotels and things, and this happened to be an apartment building that was converted. So that was okay, but to have people next door coming and going is another matter, and I think that deserves a real lot of consideration.
Make sure to make our next meeting. Is there anybody else that would like to Are we, would it be something that we would want to hold for the next meeting, or?
No, not on short-term rentals.
Okay.
Different.
I'm not trying to not listen to you, I'm just going that
I know.
we've all
We're gonna give
decided
you a
we're
breath
probably
of
gonna have
fresh
this
air.
next meeting, so
Yeah,
yes,
so
if
we
you
were,
could just state your name.
Yep, my name is Mark Miller, 15188 Orchard Trail.
Okay.
Melissa.
And this is my wife, Melissa. So we were here a month or so back regarding the Birchwood View noise issue that we had addressed the board with. And again, I'm not sure, I guess, if anything has been done or any communication between anybody in the township and the Mueller Farm people that own the establishment, but the noise thing they clearly cannot police themselves. We've got text messages, we've been in communication with them, just being neighborly. I'm not trying to get the law involved or be, it's just not my character. I'd address my neighbor if we have problems, and I would, if my neighbor had an issue with me, I would be, I'd appreciate it if they came to me personally. We have comment that basically indicates that they don't have any control over the DJs that they have at their venues, when their facility is rented. So I am coming back to the board today to put pressure on you guys to come up with ways to police, because I don't feel that it's our responsibility as neighbors to police, a noise variance ordinance that we have in our township that's clearly not being followed. And in turn, with regard to the rental things that they're for VRV, the Airbnb and all that stuff, if we can't even simply manage a noise ordinance at a facility that is constantly being rented, how are you guys gonna do this when we're renting out facilities all over these lakes? Because I can tell you right now, it's like living next to a guy that parties every weekend, like my wife stated it last time. Every single weekend, you can sit on my deck and listen to cake cutting ceremonies, daddy and their daughter, dancing, it's enough is enough, guys, enough. Clearly is enough. And so I'm hopeful that the gentleman that was here at the last meeting, I think it oversees our special use permits, and in that, I think he had mentioned maybe visiting the facility. That was you?
Yeah, so we are working to get Miller in to have a discussion with him. Part of the problem was having him in town. Now they're out of session, we are working to schedule a meeting with them.
Well, Mike, let me correct you. Remember, I did have a meeting with Mike in the small office up front. I went over your complaint personally with him.
Yeah.
The conversation started at about 7 o'clock in the morning when he was on his way to Lansing. He was very open. He knew that there was going to be complaints. He called me. I guess there was a DJ that basically Mike and his wife was not present. They had a younger person that was managing it. The father-in-law was a sheriff from another municipality. He kind of pulled the I'm a sheriff type of thing, you can't do anything about it. The DJ was not cooperative. I'm not sticking up for Mike at all. Mike knows your issue. I just wanted to let you know.
Well, if he did,
I
he would
did take
address
you
it.
seriously.
No,
I did meet
know
with
that.
him,
Yeah.
but it is a process. They're going.
What's the process
Mike's
to
going to
turn
have
the
to take
volume
it back
down?
to the planning commission.
If there's my point is, if there's a decibel requirement per the special use permit that this gentleman gives out, how are they managing the decibels?
According to Mike, he's using the decibel meter out at the area that he was specified to do it, and he knows he's.
I'll give you your chance. I'll give you your chance to talk.
And he says he knows he's went over that. He's tried to correct it. I think Mike sincerely doesn't want to have these issues. I mean, he's been out there, his family's been there a long time. I'm not sticking up for Mike. I'm just saying
hear
that,
ya.
I guess the process, Mike, isn't it, we will have another meeting, but he's probably gonna have to go back up in front of the planning commission.
The process that we were trying to follow was to bring
Hey,
him
Mike,
into the office.
can you step up so we can hear you, please? Thank you.
So the process was to bring him into the office, have a discussion with the code enforcement officer, and review his previous approvals. After that meeting, bring him to the planning commission to review his special use permit with the planning commission and determine whether or not they need to do a formal review. We've not been able to schedule that first meeting with Mr. Mueller because he's been in session. Now, if they're out of session, we're looking to schedule that meeting with them.
Okay. And again, I'm not sticking up for him. I just wanted to
I'm
let you
not-
know
I'm
that
not
I did
telling
have
that.
the meeting and I made the phone call.
I appreciate that. I just have a few comments. So I think the woman's name is Robin, who is their manager, who I've had to, so since the last time we've been here in a month, I've had to call twice to her personally, like, we haven't called the police or anything like that. We're being neighborly. And just said, hey, like, this is I mean, the DJ, the one time before the DJ was screaming, this one was so loud. And she's like, I'm aware of it and we're working on it and I'm going to the property. So she is aware that they're not in compliance because they're admitting that they're, but then just last Saturday, it was Saturday night, this last Saturday night, I guess there was a graduation party. It was well past 11 o'clock. So, and she gave me her personal number, so they're being very friendly and they're working with us. So we're not complaining about them and saying they're jerks or they're not being neighborly. But she admitted, she's like, I know, it's too loud and I'm going up there to have them turn it down. And I was, again, I have to get up at 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. It's my job, I work there. But it's like, I shouldn't have to, I think to my husband's point, is we as the residents shouldn't have to police a township ordinance. There should be someone else, but the reality is there isn't someone else except for the residents who on the times when it is too loud, which has been twice in the last month, I had to call her personally. Like, there should be someone else who's policing this and who is saying this is not right. And so what we're asking for as residents of the township is there someone, can you put someone else in place? Not the owner. The owner's not going to be there all the time. They wouldn't make any money if they had to be there every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Thursdays. Who knows what they're doing? Because now it's not just weddings. Now it's graduation parties or whatever else. And I don't know if that's part of, what type of party is part of the special unit of permit. That might be something to ask. What kind of parties can we have? Because I was told last year by Laura, or Lisa, I think her name is that they were working to only have DJs that were approved by the barn, that the people who are doing the wedding weren't allowed to select their own DJs, so that way Mueller's was able to have restrictions and have DJs who are compliant. But obviously it's a year later and that's not the case because they've admitted to us twice that there are DJs that are not following their.
Have you ever called the police?
No. Actually, I think, yes, once last year I did because it was like midnight. It was something ridiculous. But I had called her first because I had a conversation with one of the Muellers. I can't remember her name, I'm sorry. I don't have record of that anymore because it was more than a year ago. I had a conversation. Again, she was very polite. She said she was sorry. That was when we were told that they were working to have their own DJs and the personal rentals were not allowed to pick the DJ. But that hasn't been the case because I have a text message and a voicemail message from whoever's managing it. I can tell you her name, and she gave me she's like, I'm sorry, here's my personal phone number anytime you need me. And she does respond right away. I was like 11:10 on Saturday, and I was like, look, the music is still on, it's past 11 o'clock, and it's really, really loud.
It's not just music,
No.
it is loud. I mean, you can hear every word from every song. Enough is enough. So I've got better things to do than to come bother you guys with this stuff.
You're not bothering.
No,
So
You're not
I'm just
bothering us
asking
at all.
you guys to do whatever it is in your power to police it. That's it.
Well, you've been here twice. I did take it seriously last time.
We believe that.
And I will meet again with Mike tomorrow morning. I know that Mike did come to me and say he was gonna make this meeting with Mr. Mueller, Representative Mueller. So we will get with him, have this meeting, and if the next step is, Mike, do you have any recommendations for him? I mean, as far as, do they call police to make record of it? Do they,
Let me ask a question, interrupt. We have a township ordinance that says if you're going to be above a certain decibel after 11 o'clock, you come in, because I used to sign the permit that let them go to midnight or something. So why are we not enforcing the
Because code enforcement doesn't work at 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
On the
but-
weekend. And to her point, that's maybe something we need to think about.
Well,
I did not know about your problem until you guys came in the
Right,
last meeting
and that's part
before.
of the problem, is
So
I think there are probably
it's
more
important.
residents who are irritated about it, but no one said anything. And again, it was giving the business the benefit of the doubt. I'm not looking to have them go out of business. I'm just looking for them to follow the ordinances, and for me as a resident, not to have to text them twice a month to say, okay, it's 11:15, it's too loud, I gotta get up at 5 in the morning, I have less than 6 hours to sleep, can you please turn it down?
Well, we will take it seriously. Trustee Copley, you have something? you want-
Yeah, I have a question for the township attorney. Is this a citable offense to the owner or the renters?
Both.
And can they, I know we used to here, is do citizens complaint tickets. Whereas the citizens come in and file a complaint, they get a 67th court date. They're the ones that are doing the, going in front of Judge McCabe and showing their side against the whoever the ticket is against.
Well, you can
Is
sometimes
there
have
time for the neighbors to quit being neighborly if they're the only ones trying to be neighborly?
Right, I mean, you can do it with a ticket. I mean, there's.
Doesn't have to be law enforcement. They can initiate
Well-
a township ordinance type violation, right?
That's right.
It used to be.
Sorta.
Okay, well,
That
explain it
lawyer's
for me.
answer.
Explain it for me, please.
So, you know, a deputy goes out there and they have the complainant sign the ticket rather than the deputy. But if the
You
deputy
guys.
goes out there and hears it, the deputy can sign it.
Okay, but I mean, if he goes out there and it's over, but it's midnight and
Right,
they
she can
close down
sign the
before the
ticket.
cop got there.
Right.
You can sign the ticket, and then you will go in front of the judge and the defendant, whoever, be it one of the Muellers.
I know, but
or-
again, I don't wanna police them.
Well, there's a time, I understand that, but I mean.
I don't think,
you're-
I don't know what their fine is gonna be, but if it
Well,
costs $14,000 to rent
here's the deal.
the barn, $1,000 fine is, who cares? That's my only thought. But I do appreciate what you're trying to
Well,
say.
but
Well,
they're
I'm not
misdemeanors, so
finished.
that means at some point, somebody could go to jail. And Judge McCabe is real easygoing generally, but once somebody gets there, and we have a couple people that have been regulars in front of Judge McCabe, he's not so easygoing.
And
So, yeah,
That's
With
where
this-
I'm at. If we do more than one complaint, and the first time it's not resolved, and you do another one, pretty soon the judge's gonna get tired of it. Two, that'll have a paper trail for our ordinance enforcer or our, planning commission to, revoke their, special use permit. I hate to say it, but you gotta start leaving paper trails on.
That's what I was gonna recommend, to be honest with you. That's why I asked if you'd call the police. I would call the police if you feel that
Well, then it leads
they're
to.
not following the ordinance or the special use permit, then you need a paper trail, because you can come to the planning commission and tell them a lot of stories, but they're gonna say, well, did you call the police?
But it still falls back, and I get what you're saying, but it still falls back to the decibel issue, right? There's a decibel ordinance that's in our township. So does that mean I have to go buy special equipment to see if they've reached a certain decibel when I can clearly hear this music blaring off my deck at
No,
9 o'clock at night?
We're
when-
hearing you right now.
Yeah.
We're hearing
No, I
you.
know that, but
Do you know that a lawnmower, a blower, a leaf blower, all those break our ordinance?
I just want, I ask you guys a favor. Next Saturday that you have available, there's a church right at the corner of Linden and Owen Road. They just put it in. Go sit in that parking lot anytime between 7 o'clock at night and 11 o'clock, and you will clearly understand what I'm saying.
How about if I just commit to making sure that the process moves forward? And that means if it's
Jack,
getting with Mike, get Mike, the Mueller family in here, or getting him back up in front of the planning commission.
would this fall under our disorderly persons?
yeah, yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, we've got
And, yeah.
two different ordinances.
We have a lot of ways to address this with our ordinances, and so you understand, just because they get a ticket doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna get fined or go to jail. They can come for court and like, look, sorry, I did this, it's never gonna happen again, and if you're the complainant, I always try to call the complainants, send out letters to the complainants, and say, what do you want done? Not like you get to make that decision, but I look for that input. So if you said, look, I just wanted to be quiet, and the person that got the ticket says, okay, I'll be quiet, that may be the end of it, that time. Second, third time, probably won't be that simple, but it's not like somebody's gonna go to jail because you call the police. mean, it's
I know, but it just comes down to the fact that, there are rules and they're not clearly following them, and then I have to police it still. That's my whole issue with this. Until we get the
I
law
understand.
involved
I
and
understand.
stuff like that. It's just,
Makes sense.
I just think it's
I think it's
poor
up
to
to,
have to, throw that on the onus of a neighbor.
I think it's up to the township to revisit the special use permit.
Well,
you agree?
that's where this process is directed to go. It's just going slower than it should
Than
be.
it should be.
Because of the problems.
And
with
maybe
the-
that's my fault, I'll take the blame.
No,
I'll
it's
take it
not
more
your
seriously.
I'm not looking to blame
No,
anybody,
we're
I'm
not.
just,
You may need to, because a paper trail goes a long way.
no, I get that, yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you know, and I'm just saying, if it happens, again, you know, you can be you seem like a beautiful, nice couple, but, you know, it sounds like all you're getting is lip service from the girl you're calling. Oh, sorry, we'll take care of it, and then it's done. And then next week it happens again, oh, sorry, we'll take care of that. That obviously isn't working. So I don't mean to just say it to you, but it's directly affecting you folks. It might not be affecting it by the time the deputy gets there. So you may have to be the ones to get this ball rolling, started. I'm sorry, but I know how the courts work, and so do the attorneys. I mean, that's, they want it, you know, if it ain't on paper, a lot of times it's just, it didn't happen, or it's, so, I
That
mean,
makes
the
sense.
more, you know, the more,
Evidence we
trail
have,
they
I
have.
get it.
I'm just
Also,
Okay.
when it comes up in front of the planning commission, or comes back up in front of the planning commission, if you have neighbors that feel the same way you do,
I
would
can
come
fill
in-
the place, I just hope it would.
I would come and
We
do
didn't
it.
want it to come
I
to
didn't
that.
want
I'm sorry.
We don't either, so.
But remember, I didn't know about this problem
I know.
until you raised
And
it.
that's, no,
So
and that,
It's important what
that's
you're doing.
our,
No.
that is our
It-
fault and the
And it's
neighbors
not,
too
there's
for
no
not
fault. You're
taking
missing
the
what I'm
time.
telling you. I'm not telling you it's your fault. I'm telling you that it is important what you are doing.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Because
It's
I
good
had
what
no
you're doing.
idea, the process never would have got it started had you not come to the first meeting. I'd never heard about it. And I live far enough away, thank God, that I don't hear it, okay? I'm not that far away. But what you're doing is important, and there is a process that we're going through, and it's moving too slow, I get it. But had you not come here, that wouldn't have happened. So don't apologize for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get it moving.
Not that it's gonna make you feel any better, but every Sunday at family dinner, we still do family dinners. I hear from my daughter who lives about 4 houses from you.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's there.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think we have to pursue it a lot harder.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
bringing it to our attention again. It was not a waste of your time.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
So just a
Uh,
comment, I do own a banquet facility in a residential area as well, and the way that they solved this problem is they zoned me residential with a special use zoning. So over and above that special use permit for the one-off graduation party or whatnot, where we're gonna have our music up a little bit louder, and they regulate me as the owner. So I'm responsible for putting up the trees, doing the sound masking, and making sure my DJs and my guests stick to the voice level. So I feel like if you put it on the owner in their taxes, which is how mine is done, it might solve this problem. I have not had one noise complaint, and I'll tell you, in my 5-acre piece of property, I have 3 homes that are within this parking lot distance. So they're close. Sometimes when I'm outside doing different things, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how are these people sleeping with this music? But it's below that decibel level, so I haven't been,
Thank you, Amy.
in trouble.
I appreciate it.
Might be an option.
Is there anyone else here that is in attendance? Yes, Fred.
I don't know.
You speak loud enough, you can sit.
I don't know who is responsible for this, if it's the board, if it's the chief, if it's the zoning board, if it's Michael, but I just wanted to proclaim that I'm thrilled that whoever allowed it, that we're getting an Enzo's Pizza in Fenton. And I think that for the next meeting, we ought to invite them to come in, because it's gonna be a long night as far as this VRBO.
I think it's going to be.
Are you buying, Fred?
I will.
We're expecting 200. So I just want to make sure.
It's gonna be 6 pizzas cut up in 200 little.
Well, places. That's what I would have done.
It's fabulous. It'll be nice.
Is there anybody else in attendance who'd like to address the board? If you don't mind, if you can come up to the podium, just give us your name, please.
Yes, it's not about pizza. So I appreciate everybody in their comments. My name is John Smith. I live at 14252 Dartmouth. Just for the record, I'm here in the capacity, opposed to a ban. Certainly reasonable regulation is what I think has been termed good neighbor regulation. I've heard that term, and I think in some other areas of basically some regulation put in place, they've used that good neighbor. I also want to submit a comment, but I think it's worthy for the record to submit a comment. I feel bad. Mike's been taking a beating with it. Also, the survey is just my 2 cents, my opinion, my only personal opinion of the initial survey. So not for debate or anything like that, just my personal position. If it was instead of me going, I better just read this. That I feel the survey has formed a decision that I feel was the survey was significantly flawed. It was quite biased in my opinion. You're right, I think there's a science to surveys, and so I know that's been a jumping off point. You've addressed that, so I feel that horse has been taken care of, so I'm not debating against putting that opinion out there. So appreciate everybody's comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anybody else in attendance that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items?
I just have a question, and you guys may, we're residential, but somebody mentioned at one of the planning commission meetings that there's a state law that says that, you have to have a certain amount of, non-residents, non-permanent residents. How come we can have supposedly a residential area, but people can put businesses right in amongst you, and an Airbnb is a business?
Mr. Tucker?
Well, to my knowledge, there isn't any state law that says you have to have a certain number of non-residents. The issue about whether a short-term rental is a business is part and parcel of the discussion, because that is one of the positions. Typically those opposed to allowing them rightfully correlate it to a motel or a hotel with constant turnover. So there's a legitimate argument that it's a commercial business in a residential district. There's counter arguments to that from the folks that have invested 6 figures in their homes, America and property rights, and there's a lot of stuff here. And so this issue is, what good lawsuits are like. You're trying to balance respective rights and come up with a solution that makes everybody unhappy. That's how you know when you got a decent compromise.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, but I think that's an issue that really should be discussed, because we have little children, we have, and particularly in my area, it's a street that's really non-public street, kids play, we come and we go. I'd be scared to death for, having 2 or 3 sets of people traipse through every week that you do not know them or who they are.
I understand. All right, anybody else who would like to address the board on agenda, non-agenda items? Hearing none, I'll move it to those attending the meeting virtually. John, you're the only one. If you would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, if you would unmute yourself. Other than that, all right, John, I gave him time to unmute. All right, so if there's nobody here that is in attendance nor attending virtually that would like to address the board in agenda or non-agenda items, it is now 8:02 p.m. If there's nothing else, I say good night, and the meeting is adjourned.
We need to wish Alan Lawrence a happy birthday. I know you're hiding in there, Alan. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Alan.
If you hang around, we'll sing for you.
Says thank you. Recording stopped.